Beware that when fighting monsters, you do not become one. For when you stare into the abyss also gazes into you. So, let's talk about Candace Owens.
Here's to show.
I really didn't want to do this. I like Candace Owens. You see? That's a lie, somewhat. I mean, I clearly want to do this video. Otherwise, I would have kept my opinion to myself. That's how honesty works, people. Be real about what you're doing. And I'm doing this video because I assume it's going to do well. I want to talk about Candace Owens' latest conspiracy. And you voted for it. On a serious note, I actually genuinely like Candace Owens. And honestly, she needs no introduction because at one point or another, you've come across her because she pissed you off or pissed off someone you like, therefore you are pissed off with her. Example, Cardi B can't stand Candace Owens, and Candace Owens thrives on that attention. She uses it to mock how uninformed and stupid Cardi B often sounds, and also to draw in some of Cardi B's massive audience of WAPs, turning their outrage into engagement. If you are black, you are pissed off about her George Floyd commentary and how she called out BLM for what it is. A social justice marketing company that took advantage of black people's ignorance and white fragility. That's when she actually came on my radar. Then she pissed off the Jews. Oh my God! By speaking out on Israel's handling of the one-sided war. Some people call it genocide, others call it accidental collateral damage. Either way, she got fired by Daily Wire because it's co-owned by a Jew with many Jewish donors. And they didn't want to keep paying her for her negative stories, facts, and myths about Jewish people and the community and Zionism. I get it, it's a business. It's like forcing Tucker Carlson to be the face of CNN. So I understand why they had to let her go. I really do. Why would I want to pay someone to talk crap about my people that are essentially signing your check? But it was still kind of a bad look for the freedom fighters that created a slogan about facts don't care about feelings, Ben.
The stats, I've got the facts. My money like Lizzo, my pockets are fat. Homie, I'm epic, don't be a whack.
What happened to free speech? Wait, that was a thing that us conservatives were fighting for the past 5 years, right? I thought that was a thing that we were standing behind. I don't know, that could just be a Mandela effect. I don't recall, my memory's really bad. That whole saga and drama turned into Christ is King being deemed as anti-Semitic in our social commentary agreement. Candace then started her own show and went Teamo Kanye West on several episodes. And you tuned in for the latest gossip, cover-up, and political commentary that often she's somehow tied to a Jew in history. Look, it's not anti-Semitic. It's the same shit she did covering the black community. She's doing the same thing with the Jewish community, covering real life Jewish scandals from the past and Zionism. I don't know why everyone gets offended about this. We all have less than desirable people within our community that bring shame to us. It doesn't define everyone within our culture, and if someone actually believes that, well, they're just ignorant. So who really cares? We all literally have a dark past, and the goal is to address it and then fix it. Anyways, she was rubbing the Jewish community the wrong way. Even the Jewish Al Sharpton targeted her.
You never said that I threatened to murder you?
No, I never said that you threatened to murder me. Don't cut me off. I did not cut you off.
Now she's fact-checking it? You're kidding me, right?
I
don't have a computer on me. You know, Pierce, I find this an astonishing debate.
You asked?
Wait, first of all, I don't... Wait, what do you mean it's true? Because she said it's true?
On a serious note, this guy is a PR nightmare for the Jewish community. So why do you guys keep bringing him on? Oh, and boy, did she piss off the liberals because she was a staunch Trump supporter and began working for Ancestry.com to expose Kamala Harris's strange race-swapping origin story called The Kamala Chronicles. Anyways, Trump won and the story simply fizzled out, or maybe it's because some of the stuff was proven to be either distorted or unsubstantiated, or maybe 17 episodes of Kamala Chronicles was a bit much. Or maybe it didn't really matter anymore. She lost. You know, you don't want to really kick a dead dog down the stairs, right? Either way, it never culminated in any verified revelations. I felt like I was watching Lost. Was Kamala Harris' grandma white or black? Was she dead or not? Did she really own slaves? Was she tied to some Jews? I want to know.
You don't get to ask those questions.
The entire time she was covering stories, she simultaneously dabbled in the realm of unclassified documents and the past government secrets and corruption. which naturally leads you down the rabbit hole of conspiracies. It's a really fun place to be in and to dabble in. I'm just being honest, because you get a glimpse of the spook world from the past and see all the crazy stuff the government used to do to us, from counterintelligence program to Operation Northwoods, the Iran-Contra, JFK assassination, MK Ultra, 9/11, and the list goes on. She was on fire. And I know Daily Wire was sitting in the back is like, damn it, we created a monster by firing her because she cemented herself as a great social media influencer that has more influence on the conservative culture than Daily Wire ever had. And listen, I appreciated the counterculture stuff for the past 4 years, but I'm not sure if it was just happenstance or a strategic play by Candace, but she began scooping up audiences from various niches when she went truly solo. Think about it. She already had the conservatives, she already had the MAGA crowd, and pretty much most Republicans. She got the anti-war crowd, which seems to be a mix of libertarians and independents, and she picked up the conspiracy theory crowd, taking market share away from Alex Jones.
I mean, it's just, you cannot see it any other way.
Poor guy. It's not like he's actually struggling right now with his entire empire being stripped away from him.
At the end of the day, we're gonna beat these people. I'm not trying to be dramatic here, but it's been a hard fight.
And here comes Candace Owens taking market share. Sorry, Alex. You know, middle-aged, white, chubby men are out of style now. It happens. She is so good that she even managed to win over the Catholics who follow Taylor Marshall. And if you don't know who he is, think of him as the Candace Owens of Catholic commentary. And I actually enjoy his content sometimes. You know, just put it out there. She is so good as a YouTuber and as a debater that she won some of the liberals back. And I'm talking about the ones that literally hated her with a passion. You know, the crazy ones who will carve slogans into bullets. Because there is one thing that I know about liberals are suckers for celebrities, and she helped bring eyes onto Blake Lively's lawsuit, helping Justin Baldoni.
Oh my God. I am never gonna financially recover from this.
The poor guy who was being squashed by the A-list actress. She basically helped his public image while damaging Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds' nice people persona. Look, she simply used their own words against them. That's all she did. But she captured the audience of liberals and gossip queens. By the ways, how did that case end? Did you look any further after she pivoted? Just asking. Speaking of pivoting, after scooping up the gossip enthusiast, she moved on to the entertainment mystery story of a first lady from another nation who happens to also have an eggplant between her legs. Yeah, she was able to turn the book Becoming Brigitte into an 11-part series of her essentially repeating everything in the book, which if you read the book, it would probably take you about 10 hours to read through, and she put out about 11 episodes. Each episode's about an hour. So yeah, she basically covered the book in her own way with a little bit of a twist, because the book tends to present its claims more as investigative conjecture, and Candace's series frames it more as confirmation, even staking her entire reputation on the theory that Brigitte Macron, France's first lady, is actually a man.
Oh my God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure?
Stay calm!
Wait.
Everybody calm down!
And I noticed that she actually takes this approach with a lot of things. This is how she treats the book Chaos. Great book. She's always referencing it like she gets a percentage of sales, but the book deals with MK Ultra, a super duper secret government project. And Charles Manson. Must read, I'm telling you. So instead of a movie recommendation, I'm recommending Chaos. Read the book Chaos. Do a little bit of reading. The other book she bases some of her rhetoric off is Hollywood Babylon. Also a good book. It's Hollywood's first TMZ-like reporting and should be taken with a grain of salt, by the way. But to her, it's the reality of this sick world that we live in. And the thing is, she's technically not wrong of thinking that way. We got a pretty degenerate culture, right? Once you dive into conspiracy world and you see how certain agencies try to hide, manipulate, or propagandize information, you can easily become jaded and everything turns into, well,
it's really fake and gay.
Now Trump's in office and ran on the release of the Epstein file, and Then he said this.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein?
Okay, oh my God.
Immediate backlash by supporters and non-supporters. Released the Epstein files began trending. Conspiracies left and right began popping up all over social media, and Democrats, the hyenas that they are, saw an opportunity and jumped on the bandwagon because the Epstein files are universally supported compared to transitioning children. Yet we all kind of saw a cover-up happening in front of our eyes. And Candace Owens did a good job collecting OSINT on the story, but her storytelling, as entertaining as it was just storytelling in many ways. In fact, Sagar from Breaking Points used the same OSINT and properly explained the situation with journalistic integrity, but ultimately, will he get a definite answer about the Epstein files? Probably not. And everyone who was upset about the Epstein cover-up gravitated to Candace Owens because she was covering it nonstop and spoke with conviction and confidence and generally was keeping the story alive and keeping the administration accountable. I also definitely appreciated her anti-war stance and bringing awareness that not only are civilian Muslims being killed during the war, but also Christians.
Tonight, a look at the damage to Gaza's only Catholic church after it was struck by Israeli artillery. The building still standing, but church officials say 3 people were killed.
She was truly being counterculture within the Republican MAGA movement that she supported, that I supported, that many people supported, probably you watching this. Or you're one of those people who just hates me right now and is raging out in the comments. Just finish watching the video first, and then subscribe and like, or give me a thumbs down, whichever one. In many ways, a lot of us were disappointed with this current administration's actions, specifically the relationship with Israel, which is losing the information war. They really are, which will come up later, by the way. I totally went off topic here, okay? So let's get back to Brigitte Macron. So her 11-part series, you can see her channel grow and grow and grow, and people hung on to every single word until she got sued by Brigitte Macron.
You were born a man and you will die a man. That's the point I'm making. So give us a sample. I'll send my doctors to take your blood. We'll figure it out real quick, however you want to go about this. Hey, how about just giving us some pictures again of you growing up, raising your children? That would be fine.
And then she used that lawsuit, monetized it, and continued to capture views and subscribers. She became somewhat of a hero online. And this Brigitte Macron story, I don't know why, but it captivated so many people. My only question though is, what is more interesting? A story of a trans first lady with nothing but conjecture as evidence, or a story of the first lady seducing a 15-year-old, possibly 14-year-old boy when she was around 39 years old with tangible evidence? Which do you think is more important? But what was more concerning was the borderline pedo behavior of their relationship, which would have been so much easier to prove. But in the end of the day, how does it really affect you? That saga honestly really wasn't my jam, and I didn't really care if the first lady had a schwanz or not. But I can only imagine how much that rumor pissed her off to sit like this.
Elle plonge.
Ok. Is she a man? In the middle of all of this, then her friend got assassinated, and everyone who knew Charlie Kirk and didn't know him put out a video on his assassination. And I turned in to see what Candace would say because her and Charlie Kirk were very close friends for several years. And she claims they were still friends even though their paths kind of diverted. And that episode after the assassination was probably one of the saddest things I had to see outside of his wife's speech, because you saw how much that really kind of affected her. And during this time, by the way, I made the moronic decision to pay for a month of X Premium and see if I could grow my X channel to grow this channel, treat it more like a business than a hobby. And then the assassination happened during that time, and Candace was one of the people that I was following. And unfortunately, after the CK murder, I observed how all of a sudden conspiracies began to rise into algo. And of course, you know who everyone was going to blame. The Jews, obviously, especially after this debacle.
Prime Minister, you have your own memories of Charlie Kirk. Please share them.
Well, Harris, before I do that, I have to say that we're just heartbroken. Myself, my wife, my family, my son, actually, on his 2019 visit to Israel, had lunch with him.
You want to talk about bad timing? Man, this guy sucks with the information war, I tell you that much. like what the f? Now, this was tasteless, the timing was awful, but it doesn't mean that they were involved. What I saw was a desperate man trying to capitalize on a horrific moment, and it clearly threw gas on the fire. And you remember when I said we need to disconnect for a while? I think I was right. Because I began to see the growing spiral of Candace Owens' handling of her friend's death on X. And again, I can't blame her. It's not something that I would do, but we are in a society where people publicly share their abortions online for monetization.
Weird.
And I told my wife that it looks like Candace Owens is struggling there over the weekend with all those tweets that she was making, and I hope she doesn't drift too far into that conspiratorial mindset, which is very easy to get lost in. Once the information becomes too heavy, it can overwhelm you. Suddenly, everything starts looking like a cover-up, a conspiracy, or a lie. And unfortunately, I was right about her. We are on the 17th episode of Who Killed Charlie Kirk as I'm shooting this, brought to you by Candace Owens and some meat company.
And I'm pretty disgusted at a lot of stuff that I'm learning. And before we do that, I first want to throw it to Riverbend Ranch because I've been speaking a lot about Riverbend Ranch. They have fantastic steaks, really the best that you will have, Black Angus beef.
And her storytelling has divided a lot of people, specifically within the conservative movement. And I said that in my last video. We love conspiracy theories. And here I am, I want to give my 2 cents on what I'm seeing here. And it might be an unpopular opinion, or maybe not, I don't know, we'll find out. You tell me in the comments. Candace Owens, through her connection to Charlie Kirk, has a lot of eyes on her, and because of this and her strong opinions, people have turned this murder into a tribalistic type of coverage. You're either Team Candace Owens and everything she says is the truth, or you think she's off her rockers and she's doing this for clicks and views.
You liar!
Because let's call a spade a spade. She has been probably the biggest benefactor of Charlie's murder when it comes to YouTube. Now, here is the real truth. I'm not paid by anyone. I barely get any views. I want to get paid by YouTube. And it's becoming very difficult. But I am looking what's publicly available, and I do have an edge, but I'm working only with what is publicly available backed by evidence. Neither I, you, nor Candace Owens have any real insight into what's actually happening right now with this investigation. This is an ongoing high-profile assassination case involving multiple agencies working around the clock because it targeted a prominent figure and it appears to be politically motivated. Eyes are on this case like white on rice.
You're goddamn right.
Candace Owens is a talented content creator, but in this situation, none of us have the full picture. She's not a cop. She's not a Fed. She's not a lawyer. She wasn't there. She doesn't work for Turning Point. She's not Charlie's wife. She's not a politician. She's not a judge. She's not a crime scene investigator. She is a YouTuber, a media personality, an influencer, a commentator, and a political pundit. She's not what you call a traditional journalist that follows a set of ethical and procedural standards, verifying sources, avoiding conflicts of interest, distinguishing opinions from reporting, and following fact-checking protocols. She does not adhere to journalistic neutrality or verification standards. But honestly, who the f does these days, right?
I'm just saying.
There have been several red flags before where she just isn't always reliable. Hell, look at the Andrew Tate interview. Now, I don't think he committed those crimes whatsoever. I read through the case, but she lied. They lied. They lied about the timeline, and she pitched his BS Hustle University grift. I mean, come on. She's a great storyteller. She's amazing at reading books, retrieving 30-year-old unclassified public documents, and weaving it together to tell a captivating story of corruption, special interests, greed, cover-ups, and illegal tactics by the government. And it's fun because there is evidence to back it up. And when I say evidence, I mean official court documents, reports, sightings, and etc. She's okay at going down the family tree and trying to discover a person's backstory. She's okay at bringing awareness to gossip stories that may or may not be true. She's decent at gathering OSINT, but struggles to actually interpret that information accurately. But when it comes to an ongoing investigation, I had to get off that train because it's headed into the wrong direction. Look, you can spend countless of hours chasing a theory, connecting fragments, searching for patterns, building a narrative. And if the evidence turns out to be weak, it all collapses into speculation and dead ends. I get it. It's honestly tough investing that much time and effort only to realize you've come up empty-handed or you were wrong. But that actually happens more often than not. And if you ignore all those red flags, you can fall into what's called patternicity. And what I'm seeing, I'm not liking because I don't think she realizes what she's actually doing. First of all, the fans. Wow. The same way Zionists attacked her character, her fans do similar things to defend Candace. Just like the Groypers do to anyone who speaks ill against Nick F. But there's a growing number of people who are becoming convinced that everything is fake and gay. Even my wife began to believe the suspicious evidence of the word vehicle.
How most English speakers refer to a car unless they're in the military or on the police force. So here is 2022 police body cam footage, in case you missed that, of Tyler making a crash report. Take a listen.
Your mom's on her way?
Yeah, she's gonna be a minute. She's gotta shuttle over from where she's at to her car and then drive over.
Gotcha.
His mother was going to shuttle over from her car? Interesting.
Yeah, I was looking up at the light just before getting there. Okay. I saw it shift yellow. And as I get into the intersection, there was a vehicle in the lane.
And my wife repeated those same words.
I don't know anyone who uses the word vehicle for a car unless they are a military or a Fed.
And when I said, that's not true, she yelled at me and said,
of course you would say that. You're a fucking Fed.
I'm not a Fed. And then she began sleeping with her eyes half open because she's convinced she married an op. But here's an actual fact. Is she a Fed? Is she in the military?
Is that something that you say? I'm just going to go outside to my vehicle. I left something in my vehicle. Currently, they just shoot the breeze with one another and they say vehicle and retrieve. And if you don't believe me, then good. You shouldn't believe that. You shouldn't believe me when I say that. And Nick was particularly asking him to determine who owned a white vehicle. And everyone locally had looked at this vehicle, and I could help you to figure out more about this vehicle. And suddenly a president gets shot in a moving vehicle. November 22nd, 1963, President JFK was sitting alongside his wife in a vehicle.
What about car salesmen? Ever notice how they use the word vehicle?
You should always do a vehicle history check.
Top comment already. I would never buy a used electric or plug-in hybrid vehicle because hundreds of thousands of dollars to replace. I'm talking vehicles like the McLaren.
I'm going to tell you about these two vehicles because they're completely different vehicles. And
even when she provides receipts, which is not often, it's different from the story that she said. From the email that Charlie Kirk sent to Netanyahu in May, the email was real, but it didn't actually align with what she said. It aligned with what Bibi said and Charlie Kirk's business partner. Or how about the so-called intervention that was set up by donors in the Hampton Hills somewhere? Not at all how she presented it. Then all of a sudden, she has this text message thread about Charlie abandoning the Israel cause right here. And I read this text message like a person who is frustrated with the business and running a business with a bunch of donors. When someone gives you money, you know there are strings attached. And it clearly became a level of frustration for him because he started to see how the public was shifting away from what Israel was doing, the audience that he cultivated. So of course he's going to start struggling with that, and as a Christian. This wasn't like some crazy conspiracy cover-up. He was out there saying this stuff publicly.
And Jewish donors, they have a lot of explaining to do, a lot of decoupling to do, because Jewish donors have been the #1 funding mechanism of radical, open border, neoliberal, quasi-Marxist policies, cultural institutions, and nonprofits. This is a beast created by secular Jews. Look, I'm afraid because, again, I want civilization to win. I want the West to win. I don't want the Islamo-fascist barbarians to storm the gates of Jerusalem. I want the holy sites protected. I believe in the Holy Land. I love that Jesus walked on water there and rose from the dead and preached in the Mount of Beatitudes. Like, I feel the connection to Israel. But at the same time, simultaneously, when the hostile reaction is that now Meghan and Charlie are enemies.
Right.
Boy, I'll tell you, like you're not gonna, I wouldn't say lose, but you will weaken and just basically deflate two of your strongest advocates if that continues.
And yeah, even after he died, you see that turning point is just trying to get those donors back.
A couple things that it's worth clarifying. You know, and you asked me this earlier, so let me make sure
I'd say it. Charlie's position on Israel was very clear. I like them more than I like Hamas. I just wish I was free to criticize Israel and not be labeled an anti-Semite.
It's a business. They do this all the time. They do it on the right. They do it on the left. I don't understand why this is suspicious, because Jewish people want to support an organization that was pro-Israel. Make it make sense, people. But again, his sentiment was pretty public. And then likely due to the pushback that she never actually provides receipts, she presents the leaked text. And yes, it is real, confirmed by Charlie's business partner who was in the thread. Again, I just keep saying this. Nothing that wasn't already public on how he was feeling, but pay attention how she frames the text messages and the response.
So it is authentic, and I want to go into it because I actually am really excited that the truth is out there. I first want to say the reason I didn't share that screen grab publicly is because it was a private exchange, and I felt like it didn't necessarily comport with things that were already public. I wanted to not betray my friend's trust in that way, but I did share it with some people in government because it happened really quick. It was, it took 33 hours for authorities to get their suspect, and in those first moments, we wanted no stone unturned. We wanted to leave nothing unturned. So I shared it with a few people. Don't know where it went from there, apparently, but here we are. So one of the reasons, Blake, that I'm glad to have this now public, it was not mine to share publicly, but one of the criticisms we've received is that we don't care, we're not investigating every lead, we're not looking under every stone, and that somehow we're just like, sweeping things under the rug. And when I say that we want justice for Charlie more than anybody else, I really mean it, and no stone unturned. I mean, I don't know if you want to chime in on that part alone, but I have more to say.
Yeah, so it has been so frustrating how people blow up about this. Yeah. And I've certainly stated publicly, the reason I haven't weighed in on things is I'm an eyewitness to events, and they've said, don't comment on things because anything you say can mess that up. I don't want to mess up any trial for the person who did this.
That's 1,000% right. And I will say I wasn't an eyewitness. I was not there. I flew to Utah immediately to be with the family and the team, but I was not an eyewitness. So there's that. But I am aware that in my role as spokesman for Turning Point USA, which is another hat I wear, the things I say, I'm cognizant of the fact that things I say could negatively impact an ongoing investigation. All right, but I will weigh in specifically on this issue of Israel because I know there's a lot of fascination. And I just want to say that, we have to let free speech be our North Star here, okay? Charlie was adamantly free speech, and I am not personally going to impugn anybody's character who is asking questions and looking for answers, all right? And I will say that text chain is consistent with public frustrations that he voiced many times. And I know, Blake, you were in the trenches on a lot of this stuff because we were workshopping how we were going to do the tour and what he was going to get asked about Israel, what he was going to say. And this is consistent with things that he told his friends, people that are, in the wider movement about his wrestle that he was going. And so I just want to say, what is the truth about the way Charlie felt about Israel? Well, it's complicated and it's nuanced, and it was a wrestle that was going on for months. And it's probably somewhere between the BB letter and the text.
So what do we think? Okay, obviously, you can tell he's anxious. You can tell he's nervous speaking about this. I am sure it was positively frantic at Turning Point USA yesterday.
Really? She's telling you how to feel, and if you don't pay attention, you will be influenced by this. It's called emotional framing, and she's really good at this.
I personally, as someone who knows Andrew Colby, I want to express how I feel. I hold it against him, actually, that he didn't share it with me. He knew. I cried on the phone with Andrew. He knew how I was feeling. And
I even noticed that she progressively began to say, I feel for evidence, but what happened to facts don't have feelings.
Who are working together to bring justice to Charlie because we don't like the way this feels. So I feel confident, or I shouldn't say completely confident, but I feel like it's okay to venture a guess that he is a federal asset of some description. But I have no doubt that the same people that were torturing Kanye, the same people that were torturing Charlie Kirk, Kanye died today, would be the first to eulogize him. I feel that. I feel that. And I think it's important to share that information, as Kanye sent me all of the messages. They're not working with the fighters. It feels like they're working with the feds. They've said explicitly they're working with the feds, so I don't know what to make of that. I actually believe that this was a military hit.
This case shows how quickly people form conclusions before the trial even begins, and how conjecture and storytelling can shape public perception. I can't blame anyone for that. We've seen what the government has done in the past. We've seen the cover-ups not even 5 years ago. Media outlets and special interest groups often try to shape narratives. There is no denying it, including people aligned with the Israel agenda. So public suspicion of cover-ups is completely understandable. I get it. This case, however, does not fit that conclusion in what's really being insinuated here. We can play with the words, but when I see Candace Owens cosplaying as Harry the Spy during a high-profile investigation and advancing unsubstantiated theories, I gotta step away. What I'm seeing in my observation, there are two distinct issues here that I see. The assassination itself, and any speculation about whether Charlie intended to defy Zionist interest. Linking them without evidence or trying to link them by seeking out weak evidence is poor analysis. That is what people call confirmation bias, and that's what I'm seeing. Also, just put yourself in Erica's shoes for a second. Husband gets assassinated. Not even 72 hours later, his old friend is going rogue, creating conspiracy theories, sharing private messages, starting drama within his organization, an organization that she clearly has nothing to do with anymore, interfering with an investigation by putting out conjectures and insinuating connections that are not there. How would you feel? I'm just asking questions. There are people who research to form an opinion and people who research to confirm an opinion. Which kind do you think you are? Which kind do you think she is? Because at the end of the day, conviction without verification isn't truth. It's just storytelling.